So before I compare and contrast the no return mode from The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered and the Valhalla DLC for God of War Ragnarok, I actually have to mention that I'm giving away a free digital copy of God of War Ragnarok for the PS5. All you have to do to be eligible for that giveaway is type in the comment section below giveaway and tell me what's your favorite part of The Last of Us or the God of War franchise, and I will be announcing the winner on my next major PlayStation video where I will be counting down the greatest PlayStation characters of all time. That video is going to be coming out sometime within the next 2 weeks, so if you're not a subscriber, subscribe now, turn on notifications, be on the lookout for that video because that's when I will announce the winner. But again, you have to comment giveaway on this video. But let's get into the real reason why you're here. Which mode is better, The Last of Us No Return or God of War Ragnarok Valhalla? Well, we're going to be comparing and contrasting these in 4 major categories, starting with gameplay, then we're going to look at cosmetics, then we're going to look at the story content, and then we're going to look at, and we're going to cap it off with pricing. So, you know, we'll see which one gets the edge over which with each major category. So starting with, of course, gameplay. Now, if you played The Last of Us Part 2, if you played The Last of Us Part 1, but more so Part 2, you know that the combat is very satisfying. No matter how dark and gruesome it can get, it is very satisfying. And one of the reasons for this is just the implementation of the haptic feedback and the adaptive triggers from the DualSense. Naughty Dog really implements that to a T, and what they've done is they've created a gameplay system where, you know, when you're shooting a clicker multiple times in the body because you're trying to desperately get it to fall down and not eat you, then, you know, it feels like you're in that moment. And same thing can be said when you're swinging a bat at a WLF member or something of the sort. You can feel the violence on the controller as you're playing, and that's something that's very satisfying for you know, a post-apocalyptic game. That's exactly what you want the player to feel, and you absolutely do feel that in The Last of Us. Another thing here that I want to give compliments to The Last of Us gameplay is the AI and how smart and advanced it is. You know, you can have companions with you while you're out on these when you're out on these missions in the no return mode. You know, for example, as you're seeing in the gameplay here, Dina accompanied me in one of these missions, and as you can actually see in this gameplay, you know, there's an enemy off to my right, and I'm not going after that enemy, but Dina is handling it herself. And just the way, you know, if you play The Last of Us Part 2 story mode, you know that the faction that whispers out, and that's how they communicate. They try and circle around you. Well, actually, you can see that happening in some of my earlier gameplay where the enemy AI is actually circling me and trapping me, and it's very smart. It makes it very competitive, and it puts you in a situation where you really have to think, and you can't always just shoot your way out of a situation. Now, you certainly can, but you can't always do that, and it forces you to think as the player, and that is all attributed to the gameplay and the AI systems that have been implemented by Naughty Dog and the developers over there. So gameplay for The Last of Us in terms of the no return mode, it feels very good. It feels very you know, it's very satisfying. So it's a very strong category for the no return mode. But God of War Ragnarok Valhalla is something where, you know, if you played, you know, the 2018 God of War, if you played Ragnarok, then you know that the combat system in there is one that is, you know, it takes a little while to getting used to, especially once you have all your weapons at Kratos' disposal between, you know, the spear and the blades and the axe. And then, of course, you can use the runics as well in your shield. There's a lot there to use, but when you master it and you get a hold of it and you just know exactly, okay, there's an enemy here coming at me with a fireball, so I got to pull up the shield here. There's someone behind me, so I got to roll and dodge and use a runic R1 attack here. You know, once you get all of that going in God of War, the gameplay is very addictive. It really is. I've gotten lost in Valhalla. I can't tell you how many hours I've put into it. I mean, I've gotten all the trophies already, so that should tell you that the gameplay in Valhalla is, you know, it's very addicting. It's very fun, you know, and that's what we really want out of a video game. We want the gameplay to feel fun, and Ragnarok absolutely delivers on that front. So on the gameplay aspect between No Return and Valhalla, to me, it really is a strong tie. I really can't pick a one that's better because to me, they're both A pluses. They're both S tiers. They're both at the top of what they're going for. So, you know, Sony Santa Monica has really done a fantastic job with the God of War gameplay systems, but at the same time, Naughty Dog really is at the top at the top of the game when it comes to third person action adventure style gameplay. So that's a very tough category, and I'm gonna have to put it as a tie for that one. But moving on from there is story mode. Now, and this is where it's completely lopsided because, of course, Valhalla, the major attraction with Valhalla is the fact that there is a ton of story content. A big part of Valhalla is Kratos learning to master himself and learning to deal with his past, and the major struggle for Kratos in there, without spoiling the story, is that he's still trying to find it in himself to forgive his prior mistakes and prior misgivings that Kratos has done, not only to himself but to other people that he cares about, and to even his enemies, and how he deals with the repercussions of what he does, what he has done, and what that means going forward, and the type of god and leader that he can become going forward. That's all very interesting stuff that Kratos has to deal with in the Valhalla DLC, and there's even stuff there for Mimir to go with as well in terms of his relationship with Sigrun. And we learn more about the Valkyries as you complete different runs in Valhalla. There's different challenges that you have to complete and go through to unlock new stuff in terms of new dialogue with the Valkyries. And that's all great stuff. All the story content in God of War Valhalla really had me asking myself several times as I was playing, how in the world was this offered to us for free? We'll get to that point a little later, but the story DLC in Valhalla, seeing some old familiar faces as well from the God of War franchise return in the Valhalla DLC, very pleasant surprise. A lot of great cutscenes. Of course, Christopher Judge kills it as always as Kratos. So the story content in Valhalla, it's one that really worked for me on multiple levels, and I think the edge has to go to Valhalla because, of course, no return mode offers no story content. Now, of course, there's little beats that you can get here and there in terms of, like, when you have companions with you, your companions do interact with you a little bit. Like, for instance, with Dina in my Ellie gameplay, at the end of the waves, once the encounter was completed, Dina tells Ellie, "Hey, good job," and Ellie, replies back with a "F yeah, let's go." And it's nice to get those little interactions and to see the characters, speak, in terms of their surroundings, what's going on, and just have the characters react to what's happening around them. That's all nice little stuff that's been put into the no return mode, but none of it is actually story content. This is not stuff that is, canon to the events of the Last of Us franchise. So that is where God of War Valhalla gets a major edge over The Last of Us. So next, let's talk cosmetics and unlockables. Now, this is one where I feel like the edge does have to go to the no return mode from The Last of Us, because when you look at all the unlockables, all the challenges that there are in The Last of Us no return mode, there's a lot of incentive to play different characters and to play different styles. And certainly God of War Ragnarok does that as well, but I feel like on a level that's maybe not so much lesser than, but it just feels like maybe there's not as much creativity put into it, because a lot of the skins that I see in the God of War Valhalla mode, the stuff that you can unlock, is a lot of these skins are a lot of things that I've already had in the main campaign playthrough. So it doesn't feel like there's a lot of new content that was available, that was given to me, that I never had previously. Certainly there is a few new things, but when you compare that to The Last of Us No Return mode, where a whole bunch of brand new cosmetics, a whole bunch of brand new outfits, a whole bunch of brand new weapon skins have been added to the game, as well as with certain challenges that you do, whether you play you play this style of Jesse, or if you play this many matches with Ellie, you can unlock Dina, and so forth, so on and so forth. There's just so much more variety in terms of the unlockables that are in the no return mode, as well as there's ways to unlock different mods that you can unlock and equip to your characters. You can actually have different weapon mods that you can add to your weapons, or you can add different mods to the way the map works, the way the map functions that you're on, and that adds a ton of replayability to the maps, because while there's only a certain set number of maps in the no return mode, there's different ways that you can spice things up with the different modes. Whether you want to have flaming Molotov cocktails raining from the skies, you can do that. If you want there to be this sort of black and white mode while you're fighting off different infected, or a mix of infected and human enemies, you can do that. If you want your bat to have certain explosives attached to the end of the hit, things of that sort. You can do things like that in the no return mode. That is certainly there, and that incentivizes the player to want to play different ways. It incentivizes you to want to play different characters, and again, playing different characters is something that you just simply cannot do in God of War Valhalla, and that's something I don't want to hold against it too much, because again, Valhalla is more of a story content DLC in terms of where it makes sense for you to only play as Kratos. I mean, I get it. I get that because of the story implications, you can only play as Kratos, but that is something that we have to consider when we compare these two categories of unlockables and cosmetics. And again, there's so many outfits that you can put onto Ellie and Dina and Abby, and there's so many outfits that you've never seen these characters wear before. You've never seen these characters in these outfits before. You've never seen them with these weapon skins before, and that's a bunch of brand new content that Naughty Dog created for this mode, and you have to give it up to them. You have to give them credit where credit is due. They really did put a lot into that aspect of the no return mode. So I think the edge for unlockables and cosmetics definitely has to go towards no return. So now we finally get to our last one, which is again the pricing. Now, Valhalla is free. It's completely free. If you've already played God of War Ragnarok and you still own the disc, or you own a digital copy, you can still play it. You can play Valhalla for absolutely no additional cost. And that is, you are getting a crazy amount of content for free. I mean, this is stuff that certainly should have, in the old world of, well, really even the current world of gaming, the current economy, people do want to charge you as much as they possibly can. And I would not blame Sony if they wanted to charge us for this content, because it's absolutely well worth the price. Now, when you compare that to no return, when you think about it as a brand new remaster and you think about it as a $50 game, it does seem outrageous, right? It does seem like this is an unnecessary remaster, and you're just getting the no return mode that's brand new. You're just getting the lost levels that's brand new. Sure, you're getting some graphics updates, really kind of sort of. It's really hard to tell. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's really hard to tell. But when you look at it that way, then yes, that is a major favor in Valhalla. But when you also consider the fact that if you've already owned The Last of Us Part 2 on PS4, if you already own it on disc, or if you already owned it digitally, then it's only just a $10 upgrade fee to get the no return mode and to get the lost levels and the upgraded graphics. So it's really not that steep of a price to pay when you consider it from that point of view. And again, when you consider the content that is there in terms of the no return mode, I feel like you are getting a ton of mileage. If you are a big fan of The Last of Us, you are getting a ton of mileage out of this mode. There's just so much to dive into. There's so many things to tinker with. There's so many ways that you can actually take control of the no return mode here and make it your own. Twist it and turn it in different ways that you want, in ways that you can challenge yourself, or in ways that you just find really satisfying. You want to go in there and get some easy click kills and some easy WLF kills and have a good old time. So in terms of the pricing, again, I feel like it's a little bit subjective, but if you want to give the edge to Valhalla for being a free DLC content update, I wouldn't blame you. But that brings us now to the end question of, again, why you're here in the first place. No return, Valhalla, which is the better mode? And to me, I feel like the answer is kind of subjective, and I know that feels like a cop-out, but I really have enjoyed my time with both Valhalla and No Return. And while my feelings on both of them are that I enjoy them both, and I certainly want to see both of them flourish, both of these franchises flourish. I can understand why some people who are maybe more story oriented may want to swing more in favor of Valhalla. I certainly would understand that. If you're someone who just is a huge Last of Us fan, or if you're just a huge fan of just just going in and being creative and exploring different ways to play different maps and play with different characters and do a whole bunch of different functionalities with different types of weapons and characters and customization, then The Last of Us No Return is probably going to be your jam. So I feel like there's no way to take an L, regardless of which direction you decide to take, or if you decide to play them both. Because again, this is a comparison video, so maybe you've played them both. And go ahead and let me know what your comments are down, and let me know what your opinions are in the comment section down below. But as always, if you want to stay up to date on all the latest in the world of movie news, TV news, and video game news, well, you're already in the right place, and I hope you consider subscribing to the channel because I would love to have you along for the ride. But until next time, this has been Millennium Media, and I will see you all very soon.